Hello everyone, my name is Tishmeen Begum and I am a DRA at the DOMC and I'll be showing you various tutorials on Freezer Pro. So today I will show you how to create freezer group freezers, freezer boxes, freezers, subdivisions, and how to adjust the access permissions. So I will first share my screen. So first, you should be able to access Freezer Pro once you have the appropriate logins from the administratives. And you can see on the left-hand side, these four categories. We will navigate ourselves to storage and click on this arrow right here. So I'm going to create test freezer groups and freezers just for tutorial purposes. So we will go to this box right here, or this little toolbar. We have these four icons. This one right here is to add a new freezer. So once we click on this arrow, we see add building, add room, add group. What we want to do is to add a group, and we will call this test freezer 1. And if you'd like, you can also add a description. We'll add the same thing. And this is if you want to add any external files, which we will not be doing in this tutorial. And we'll click on save. So here we have test freezer group 1. So within these freezers, and I will show another freezer, for example, if you go to DOMC test, we have these little square icons, which represent a freezer. And then within these freezers, we have boxes, or we can have subdivisions. I'm not sure if any of these have any subdivisions. And then within subdivisions, we have a box. So once we've created the group, which is right here, the folder with this little box icon, we will then go ahead onto the same toolbox, and we can either do add new freezer, or we can right click on the desired test freezer group and click on add new freezer. Each approach is appropriate, and it doesn't matter which way you do it. So we'll do it from here. We'll do add new freezer, and we'll call this test freezer 1. And then we'll add, oh, we do need to add a description. Sorry about that. And then through this, you can also add subdivision hierarchy or add boxes to the last level subdivisions, but we'll do the subdivisions and the boxes manually. You don't need to check these. So we have right here the test freezer 1 that we created, and you'll notice that it came out, like it appeared outside of the groups. It did not appear within the group 1. And for freezers, once you've created one, you will then have to drag it into the freezer group. So now it'll pop up and ask you, are you moving test to confirm, move test freezer 1 into test freezer group 1? Yes, this is what we want to do. And then now we see test freezer group 1, we click on it, and then we see this layer of test freezer 1. So now we're going to add a subdivision, and there's two ways of adding subdivision, similar to the two ways we can add a freezer. We can either go to this icon right here, this little polygon shape with the plus sign, add new subdivision. Please select freezer or subdivision first. So we would have to make sure we have this freezer selected. Once it's selected, we can add a new subdivision. So we'll do test subdivision 1. Copy this and put the same into the description. The description can vary. I'm just putting the same title for tutorial purposes. So now within our test freezer 1, we have test subdivision 1. And I also would like to point out the icons. So for test freezer 1, we have this folder with the box icon. For test freezer 1, we have the square. And then for test subdivision 1, we have this little polygon shape. We can also add a subdivision by right-clicking on the freezer. And then we have this drop-down menu. We'll go to add new subdivision. And then here we'll do test subdivision 2. Paste that. And now we have our second subdivision. And now within the subdivision, you can add another subdivision, or we can add a box. And similar to adding the subdivision, there's two ways. So let's first select subdivision 1. And then this little horizontal box shape is a box, a new box. So here we'll put test box 1. And within the boxes is where the samples are being stored. Test box 1. And so that because this is where the samples are being stored, you will have to select a box type. And by box type, it means how big is this box supposed to be. And this will vary depending on the sample that is being stored within this box. Some samples will require a 6x4 vertical by horizontal box shape. Others will require more, and this will depend on the sample or the study protocols and what's being stored here. So just for now, we'll just go for a 10x10, and we will add that in there. So now we have the test box 1 within subdivision 1. We can also add a box by right-clicking the desired subdivision. And we have right here, add new box. And it's about the same process, just a little different approach. And then same thing with the first box we added, you have to select the box type. And there it is. So now the naming conventions of each layer, so the group, freezer, subdivision, and box, you can find the details for this within the Appendix 2 within the SOP for this tutorial. But the naming convention will depend on the site. And as you can see, each country, like the freezers are labeled the site country. And then once you open up the site country freezers, you can see all the different freezers or the group. Once you open up the groups, you can see all the different freezers, subdivisions. There can be multiple subdivisions, and then the box. So then we can close these out, or we can keep them open. Lastly, I would like to go over the access permissions for each freezer group. So we will go to the freezer group and we will do a right click. Here we have properties. Actually, from properties, you can always make any edits or changes, and all of these all have properties. But we'll go back and we have the access permissions. This will let us control who has permissions to access this freezer group. So let's say if we would not like Brazil lab users, this user group, to have permission or access to this freezer group, we will click on this and we can click on no access, or we can click on view only, whichever is appropriate for each user group. Once this has all been adjusted and modified, you can save permissions, and it should save who is able to access this sample group, this freezer group. And that is all for today on how to create freezer groups, freezers, subdivision, boxes, and how to adjust the access permissions. I hope that this tutorial has been helpful, and you can always refer to the SOP and the appendixes within those SOPs on naming conventions for the freezer groups and for more details. Thank you.